Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Fiddle. Today is episode number 3 in Ginger Appreciation Month. Thank you, Ginger, for all the things that you do. And this is also episode number 3 for making the Little Things series. And in this episode, we're going to be making a blood transfusion device, a stethoscope, and a knee reflex hammer. And as always, don't forget to check the link in the description. That would take you to the scavenger hunt where you can find a list of materials so you can make this stuff along with me. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start with the blood transfusion device first, and for this you'll need a large wood bead and a hand drill. At about the midsection of the bead, we want to drill 2 holes on the same side but far apart. We want a bit of a gap in between them. Once you have your holes drilled, set it aside. We'll come back to it in a minute. Next, you'll need the bulbous end of a large pipette. This is going to be the temporary storage spot for the blood. Next, you'll need some sort of pokey tool to poke a hole in the bottom of the pipette. Now we're ready to start putting it together. You'll need a jewelry head pin, poke it through the hole in the bottom of the pipette, then add on a large bead cap facing upwards. Next is the wood bead that we drilled holes in. Then add on a smaller bead cap facing the same direction as the other. And finally, a tiny round bead. Use a pair of pliers to bend the bottom of the wire upwards to hold the beads in place. And this is what mine looks like so far. Now that we've got the main portion of it done, we can move on to making the tubes. For this, I used a clear plastic coated wire that was from a light up necklace. I would say about 2 2-inch long pieces of wire should be good enough. Glue an oval bead onto one of them. It represents the hand pump that gets the blood moving. Set it aside to dry, and next we need to cut the very end off of 2 pipettes. These will be the syringes and made pretty much the same way as we did in the last tutorial, minus the doodads on the top. Add multi-surface glue to the end of a jewelry head pin, and then pull it all the way through the tube until it stops. Repeat the same process for the other tube. Then add on a tiny bead to one end of both pieces of wire. Then add a bit more glue and set the bead just inside the rim of our syringes. Here's what the up close looks like of mine. Now we're ready to attach them to the device. Add a small bead at the other end of both pieces of wire, but make sure there's a little bit of wire poking through the other side. That'll help hold it in place. Then poke the end of the wire into the holes that we drilled earlier. And just to make it stand out a little bit more, I painted both of my wood beads black. And off screen, I did poke a hole through the top portion of the pipette so I could put a wire through and hang it on the back of the skeleton stand. Okay, the next little thing we're going to make is the stethoscope. We'll need a piece of floral wire that's about 1 inch long and a pair of pliers. We need to make a U shape with the ends coming inwards. Okay, now the next thing you need is a little bit strange. You know how we've been using fairy lights lately and we don't really need the whole strand, but you don't want to throw them away because they can come in handy? Well, they're going to come in handy. Essentially, we need 1 bulb, but with all the wire on both sides. This will be the blue cord on the picture of the stethoscope. Using the thicker wire, set it just after the bulb, then follow with the thinner wire to the ends, leave a bit extra and cut the rest off. Then holding the 2 ends together, slip tiny beads on both sides. It might be easier to put the bead on the bigger wire first and then poke the little wire through. Resituate it and pull the thin wire through until the V is set right with the light, then trim off the excess. Now that we've got the top part done, we can move on to the bottom end. First, we need to slip a small bead onto the wire. Then, add on a pointed bead cap. And finally, another small bead that fits inside of the bead cap. Adjust it to where you think the length looks right, trim off the excess, and secure it in place with E6000 and superglue. To keep the thin wire close to the thick wire, you can use a little bit of the excess that we've cut off and wrap it around a few times on each side. Then trim off the excess. I didn't think about it till now, but silver paint or a silver marker to cover up the light would make it look even better. And finally, we're on to our last little thing of this episode, and that is a reflex hammer. The first thing we're going to do is cut a small triangle out of a pretty thick piece of wood. It needs to be thick enough for your smallest drill bit to fit into, and the triangle should be no bigger than 1/2 inch on any side. Give it a good sanding to knock down all the hard edges. Then drill a hole close to one of the corners. We don't want it to go all the way through, but we want it to be far enough that our wire will stay in place. Next, cut a piece of floral wire that's about 1 inch long and use E6000 or superglue to glue it into the hole that we just drilled. Then add a small oval bead to the other end. Then give it a coat of paint. I went for your standard brown. And with that, it brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope this gives you ideas for your next project, or you join along in making it with me. If you're new, welcome, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, as it all really helps me out a lot. We still have quite a few little things to make, so I'm not sure what would be next. Thank you, Ginger, and I'll see you next time.